Now I would like to invite Mr. Nasirji to come and introduce the next session. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Meenuji. Very, very engrossing session. The first one, the inaugural session. I thank Vikramji for a very, very interactive session. A lot of questions were there in Ayush sector. And we hope to make it the main line of treatment as compared to the allopathy. Thank you so much. Now we have a very interesting session. The season is apt, which is monsoon. The edition is monsoon. And the next, the author, Mr. Abhay K, will also talk about his book, The Monsoon, and also The Six Seasons, Ritu Samhara by Kalidas, translated from Sanskrit by Sri Abhay K. The publisher is Bloomsbury. The Six Seasons, the book is a translation of Ritu Samhara, one of the most popular poems written by Kalidasa by poet and translator Abhay K. The poem has 6 cantos for the 6 Indian seasons: Grishma, Varsha, Sharat, Hemant, Sisir, and Vasant, all the 6 seasons of Indian subcontinent. The changing seasons are portrayed in acute details using the thematic backdrop of how lovers react differently to the changing landscapes, the two themes beautifully accentuating each other. Kalidasa brings together ecological with sensual by making reference to the changing seasons and how passionate love is rekindled with the arrival of each new season. This is the theme, this is the basic outline of the 6 seasons, Ritu Samhara. The other book is Monsoon, again written by Sri Abhay K. It is a poem of love and longing by Abhay K that follows the path of monsoon, which originates near Madagascar and traverses the Indian Ocean to reach the Himalayas and back to Madagascar. Monsoon is a homage to the rich natural world of the Indian Ocean, islands and the Indian subcontinent, their vibrant cultures and biodiversity. About the author, Sri Abhay K is an Indian poet diplomat, editor, translator, anthologist, and currently serves as the Deputy Director General of the ICCR, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, New Delhi. He joined the Indian Foreign Services in 2003. A few of his published collections of poetry include Celestial Stray Poems, Monsoon, The Magic of Madagascar, The Alphabets of Latin America, The Prophecy of Brasilia, The Eight-Eyed Lot of Kathmandu, The Seduction of Delhi, among others. He received the SARC Literary Award for his contribution to contemporary South Asian poetry and was nominated for the Pushcart Prize 2013. Sri Abhay K, I would invite him on the dais, please. Sri Abhay K. The session will be moderated by Ms. Kena Shri. She is also a renowned storyteller and an author. She has conducted numerous sessions reaching over 1 lakh participants, including prestigious B schools such as IIM Lucknow and IIM Shillong. She is recognized as a corporate storyteller with different skills. She has conducted workshops at PowerGrid, Bell, Gale, Nokia, Airtel, Maruti, NIPM, ICI, Microsoft. Her storytelling videos on YouTube have crossed 7 million views. She is also an artist with All India Radio. Ms. Kenashri, over to you. Thank you so much.
एक second. Hello? Hello? Yeah, just a second. I'll take just 2 minutes with your permission, Abhayji. Friends, just wanted to share my excitement. We have with us a very, very young prodigy is young. So, Abhiram Chaturvedi is here with us. Abhiram, please come. So, Abhiram has written a book called Project, how do you pronounce it? Huh?
Project
Mictavia. And it reminds me of like a Harry Potter book. And can we have a round of applause for this young author? And he's, what is your age?
13.
And he's written already how many books?
4.
4 books he's written, and I think if you would like to just briefly tell about this book.
Yes, so this is the first volume of a 3-book series. It is called the Project Mictavia series. So it's in the science fiction genre, and it follows, it's set on an exoplanet, and it follows the main character who, he's an orphan and he's enshrouded in mystery about his parents' death, which is related to an organization called Project Mictavia. So he joins the organization, and, he's just thrust into a world of chaos, and he realizes the reality of his planet. And he knows that it is his destiny to save his planet along with all his people and friends.
Doesn't he remind like one of the characters of Harry Potter himself? So a big round of applause for Abhiram and wish him all the best for his future. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhiram. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Over to you, Kenna.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, young man. My God. Absolutely. So, how are we doing? Good, great, yes. Chakas. So, if you like poetry, and if you like rains, if you like monsoon, then this session is the session that you would probably get enthralled. Because I have with me somebody who's a diplomat, but a poet diplomat. Somebody who has, for last almost 2 decades, if not less, been into understanding poetry, translating epic works, and producing some of the greatest literature of our times. Thank you so much, Abhayji, for joining with us. And today we are here celebrating the legacy of poetry that Abhayji has to his name, especially in reference to 2 books. Now, the 2 books that I have in hand are, one is called Monsoon, and obviously this is the Delhi Literature Festival's Monsoon edition. How can we not talk about this? And the other is a beautiful, beautiful translation of Kalidasa's Ritu Samhara. This is second to the series because the first was Meghdutam, which he has already done and it has already been in the talks. So today we would like to understand from you, Abhayji, about the process of the fascination poetry has. Because honestly, in a long time, I've had the honor and privilege to have spoken with so many authors and poets, but rarely do I find somebody who is interested in the long form of poetry, especially with the attention span that we all have of late, which is very, very less. We tend to read, probably a 1-pager or a 2-pager, or maybe 5 to 6 paragraphs, and that's enough. And Monsoon is one poetry in one book. So it's not an anthology. It's 150 stanzas.
Right. So thank you, Kanasri, for your kind introduction and speaking so well about Monsoon and my translation of Kalidasa's Ritu Samhara. Well, I started writing poetry with usual length short poems, as everybody does. Slowly, I was fascinated by how Kalidas was able to write Meghdut. I had not read Meghdut in original, I had heard about it. But during the pandemic, I happened to read it in full. And Meghdut is actually only 111 stanzas. So I thought, and in those 100, if you read it, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I had studied Sanskrit, so I first read the English translation and then I went back to the original, seeing if my Sanskrit was good enough to understand the original. And slowly it started all, coming out. And then I read many translations of Kalidasa's Meghdutam and Ritu Samharam. I mean, in Sanskrit, it ends with Ma, so it's Meghdutam and Ritu Samharam. And realized that none of the translations had been done by a poet. So I thought that maybe I should try to fill in that gap, have a translation which is poetic. And I was very cautious with that because it's Kalidasa's poetry. So I ran my translation through another translator who is very well known for translation of Sanskrit classics, Ambassador A.N.D. Haksar. You may have heard of him. He's translated many books from Sanskrit. And he truly enjoyed reading these translations and told me that they they bring they bring Kalidasa's work in a new light. They give a new meaning to his work, and I was very encouraged and ended up translating both first Meghdut and then Ritu Samhar. But also, I just want to add to that. I mean, there was also another reason to translate them, because I also wanted to write my own poem called Monsoon. I had studied geography in Delhi University and JNU, and later I was posted as India's ambassador to Madagascar between 2019 and 22. And Madagascar happened to be the place where, nearby Madagascar, there's a place called Mascarene High. And I had read in geography books that monsoon originates somewhere nearby. And then I thought of, how does monsoon travel from that place all the way to New Delhi and to different parts of India? I did research on the path of the monsoon, and then I thought, using the same trope of काव्य संदेश जिसको हम कहते हैं, कालिदास का जो मेघदूत है वो एक काव्य संदेश है. It's a messenger poem. So he uses Megh as his messenger, and I thought monsoon to make my messenger, and thought of a plot where the monsoon takes the message from Madagascar to Kashmir. And that's how Monsoon was born, a poem of 150 stanzas. Each stanza is a quatrain having 4 lines, and it's a poem which is now has been picked up for studying at Harvard for a project on climate and literature.
So it had to be. It had to be. There was no other way, because this book, I will tell you, just imagine, Madagascar के वेव से बारिश की शुरुआत होती है. वो न जाने इंडियन ओशन के कौन सी जगह पे, कौन से ओशंस में, कौन से पहाड़, कौन से जंगलों से होती हुई सारे रास्ते, द वेस्टर्न घाट्स, द इंडियन ओशन, द हिमालयाज, वहाँ से होती हुई श्रीनगर पहुँचती है, दिल्ली के रास्ते, जहाँ पर according to him, there is this beloved who's waiting for a message from Madagascar. She receives the message, and this is the time when the monsoon needs to return back to where it originated from. तो ये जो पूरी यात्रा है मैडागास्कर से श्रीनगर की और वहाँ से वापस, उसमें प्रेम भी है, कहानियाँ भी हैं, और इतनी खूबसूरती सी कल्चरल एमालगमेशन है of various places the monsoon goes. Very romantic and very historical also. For instance, I have noticed when I was reading the book, I noticed that there's a mention of food. All the places from where monsoon traverses, जब वो बिहार पहुंचती है तो लिट्टी चोखे की बात होती है, जब वो मुंबई पहुंचती है तो वड़ा पाव की बात होती है. हर जगह की, चाहे उनकी ड्रेसेस हों, चाहे उनके आउटफिट्स हों, ट्रेडिशनल अटायर्स हों, खान पान की बात हो, लव मेकिंग की बात हो, हर तरीके से मॉनसून ने किस तरह से उस मैसेज को देखा है, समझा है और उनके बिलावट तक पहुंचा है, इसकी बहुत प्यारी सी गाथा है. Why don't you read something from this book?
Sure.
Your favorite couplet before we move on to your other book.
Sure. So ये जो पोएम की जो शुरुआत होती है वो एक जैसे इन लाइन्स से होती है. I wake up with your thoughts, your fragrance reaching me all the way from the Himalayas to the island of Madagascar. Brought by monsoon from the blessed Himalayan valley to the hills of Antananarivo on its return journey. I dream of you every night. The shimmering dawn snatches my dreams, but the morning breeze comes whispering your name, permeating my being with your thoughts, only your thoughts, my love. I am far away in this Indian Ocean island, yearning for your touch, gazing at the moon, Venus, and myriad star constellations, hoping you are gazing at them too. Then the monsoon travels through different islands of Indian Ocean, from Madagascar to Reunion to Mauritius to Comoros to Zanzibar to Socotra, Maldives, Sri Lanka. And then near Sri Lanka, monsoon gets divided into two parts. One arm of monsoon travels across the western, along the western Ghats up to Delhi, and the other one goes via the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the Bay of Bengal, and reaches Kolkata. And then these two arms then again come together and meet near Delhi and travel north. So, so for example, in Kerala, when it reaches Kerala in June, here are a few lines if you want me to read.
Go ahead, please do.
You will be received in Kerala in June with great pageant and ceremony. People will be anxiously waiting for a glimpse of your thunder and lightning. Peasants staring at the unyielding sky, priests performing puja, chanting mantras, musicians playing rag Megh Malhar, virgins immersed waist deep in reservoirs to seduce you. People will go out in the tranquil backwaters and indulge in ketuvalams, cruises, and Ayurvedic massage. Your mystical winds healing them. Suruli Falls will turn milky white with your rains. Western Ghats will stand in the way of your gusty winds, forcing you to ascend, cool, condense, and pour. Their parched lips will rise to kiss your perfumed breeze. Offer them your lips.
Lovely, lovely. So, looks like, we will let us know. So when I was told that I need to converse with Abhayji, I planned the entire conversation in a manner that let's understand his books in the first 15 minutes. Then we understand the author that Abhayji is. And in the last 10 minutes, we'll get to know the person that you are. Probably that is when we'll have the answers whether you're a romantic person or not. But there's something that I wanted to ask. You know, while it is very brave and very inspirational to take to an epic like Meghadutam, have you ever faced people or critics drawing parallel to the book, saying, "Hey, this is probably an inspiration of Meghadutam and not your own"? Have you felt that itch?
Well, I don't think many people read Meghdut. My idea was to kind of nudge them to read the original, and I would be happy if they can compare, any comparison with Kalidas, who is my favorite poet, is
It's
great.
a compliment.
It's a compliment.
Is a compliment.
Even if I would be 1% of, a shadow of Kalidas.
And if you could academically tell us in what ways your book is absolutely distinct from Meghdut.
Well, Meghdut, of course, Meghdut is purely a love poem. It's also a nature poem. Some of you who have not read Meghdut, let me just briefly tell you what it is. So in Meghdut, there is this Yaksha, who is like semi-divine being, is expelled by Kuber. Kuber is the lord of wealth, the finance minister, you can say. So Kuber expels him from a mythical city called Alkapuri, which is in the Himalayas somewhere, considered to be in Nepal somewhere. So he's expelled because he was newly married and he was paying a bit less attention to his work, which was taking care of the gardens of Kuber. And was paying more attention to his wife. And so Kuber gets angry and he sends him to central India, a place called Ramgiri. And there he has to spend 1 year away from his newly married wife as a punishment for not attending to his duties. So in modern sense, he gets a he gets a posting somewhere in in central India. Now, the monsoon season has arrived, and this yaksha sees a cloud wandering in the sky, and he becomes very emotional, seeing that cloud, thinking of his new wife, and he urges the cloud that, can you take a message from me, because there is no way I can send a message to my beloved who is waiting for me in Alkapuri. And then he not only urges the cloud, but he also tells him, he endears the cloud that how can you go to Alkapuri. He gives the complete map, and he not only he gives the complete map, he also tells the cloud that there are beautiful rivers on the way, and you can drink their waters, and you will grow drinking their waters. And there where Kalidas becomes such an important poet for us in today's world, in the world where we have triple threats threatening our planet, climate change, environmental pollution, and biodiversity loss. So Kalidas impersonifies nature. So rivers are not just rivers for the clouds, they are beautiful damsels, and he very sensuously mentions rivers, that how should the cloud drink their water. And there, a very important message from Kalidas, that we must treat nature as beloved. And that's the only way we can protect nature, because we truly care for our beloved. We generally tend to treat nature as mother, reverence, and then forget about it. So a very important message there. So so Monsoon is, this poem it uses the messenger poem concept of Kalidas, but it is completely different. It also uses the Kalidas focus on biodiversity. In Meghdut itself, there are more than 30 plant species named. I have kept the original names so that you can read them in the translation. They are available on the backside and in the bookstore. Also, in Ritu Samhara, Kalidas has immense love and immense care, empathy for other species. We will come to it. So what I have done in Monsoon is that I have, I also had this in mind, that a country like Madagascar, which has no, there is no literary connection between us, India and Madagascar. Many of you may not have heard about Madagascar or where it is. So I also wanted to connect the Indian Ocean Islands through a poetic chain, create a literary connection between India and all the Indian Ocean Islands. So this poem, Monsoon, not only is a love poem, but also it documents the flora and fauna of these Indian Ocean Islands, which are going to get extinct very soon. So it's also an urge to preserve their names, preserve that they, these species were here, and it's also, not only the biodiversity it brings in, but also the cuisine, the architecture, the languages. It's a very ambitious poem and can be read at many different levels, depending on the customs. For example, I'll come to, for example, have you heard of the raga Gond? It's a forgotten raga now. It's the original Monsoon raga. But let me read when the Monsoon comes to Delhi. Forgotten raga Gond will once again play in Delhi's old Havelis, evoking deep longings. Your dark clouds will enwrap the sky. and whole city will let out a joyous sigh. Ecstatic peacocks at Jawaharlal Nehru University will spread their plumes and dance. Amorous couples will kiss, cuddle, and make love under your reins at the Parthasarthi rocks in the Aravalli hills. Children will play in the streets in rain puddles. Passionate lovers under the trees at Lodi Garden and Nehru Park will feel the pleasant sensation of your raindrops on their bare skin. Homes will be filled with the tantalizing aroma of bhajia, samosa, jalebi, and masala chai. Jamun and neem trees will be laden with ripe fruits. Taste these delicacies. Recharge the tanks of Hauz Khas and bowls of Agrasen and Nizamuddin. Thirsty devotees will venerate you. Young lovers at the Rose Garden in Delhi University will play truant and indulge in rain revelries.
So, just a very keen question that's coming to mind. Meghdootam, Kalidas writes for his beloved wife. Is your beloved in Srinagar in Monsoon a fictitious character or is it for real?
Well, I mean, it's a, in poetry, what is fictitious and what is real, there's a very thin line between them. I mean, of course, the person, the beloved, I mean, see, in Kalidas's Meghdut, the whole thing is fictitious. Yaksha is fictitious.
So he very clearly escaped the question and we'll give it to him. Now we come to the second book, which is, as you can see, it's on the table, it's Ritu Samhara, again Kalidas's original work, beautifully translated by Abhayji. As you know about the 6 seasons in India, Grishma, Varsha, Sharad, Hemant, Shishir, and one is the last one?
Monsoon.
Yeah. And both of you, in some terms, are eco-poets.
Right.
We have poets and we have very few eco-poets who care to talk about climate, changes, geography, earth, and talk about it with great passion. But when I was going through the book, and thank you very much that you've translated a Sanskrit epic in English, because I think this is the time of the millennials and the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and for all of them, or for this entire fraternity, this book is a beautiful gift. I would not have been able to understand Ritu Samhara if it was not for this beautiful translation. However, when I was going through it, at many places I have found there are very intriguing description of women. So please allow me to read a few, just a few lines where women have been put in aesthetically yet erotic light. Through all of the seasons, 6 seasons, women have been spoken about as objects or personification of lovemaking. For instance, it's page number 98, and on this page, Kalidas, and this is the translation, which says, another woman, rapturous after making love, inspects nail marks on her body and her luscious lips, gleefully puts on her bodice and lets her soft dark hair ringlets loose to cover her fluttering eyes. Other charming women, weary from prolonged lovemaking, let out soft, joyous sighs, rubbing oils and pastes on their nipples and in the deep creases of their thighs. And this is just not, these are not just the 2 verses. More than 50% of the book, of the verses, focus a lot on the women body and the way they would take to lovemaking. During your research, were you also intrigued by this observation? Because yours is a translation as it is. So did this fact startle or did it sort of intrigue you?
No, I was very fascinated because Kalidasa, why Kalidasa is so great, such a great poet? because he combines the two eternal themes, which always were and which always will be. The one is nature, and another is sensuality. So these, and Kalidasa's genius lies in, bringing them together in unparalleled way. So, I was delighted, in fact, that such a great poet has written so sensuously about, human bodies. And it's not only women; he also writes about men, actually. But I mean, as women are, more beautiful. So, he has, I think, devoted more time to them. And
So did you face the challenge of, while translating, did you face the challenge of um, putting it across in a very aesthetic way and not at the cost of sounding erotic?
why not? I mean, there's a difference between sensuality and sensual, sensuous, and erotic. There are different degrees. And I have tried to have the balance as much as I could, staying true to the original. So, and let's face it, I mean, we should have Kalidasa as he has written, we should not try to, to, to make him, cut him to our times. So, yeah, I mean, and that's winter actually. What happens in winter? He says, and look, it's the coming together of nature and sensuality. It's just not, those two verses. It would seem that they are like independent, but they are not.
They're not. They're
See
not.
how it begins. Winter comes alive in the fields, full of ripened paddy, my love. Demoiselle cranes let out sweet cries, exhorting lustful women to lose themselves in the crazy sport of lovemaking. And this is 5th century AD. It's comforting to keep windows shut, fires lit, and bask lazily under the sun, wearing heavy garments. Men enjoy this season in the company of grown-up women. Neither sandal paste, cool like moonbeams, nor bridge chilled by frost, nor rooftops under the silver moon delight people's heart.
Yes. So it has a context. Obviously, wherever Kalidas ji describes the scenes of lovemaking or describes men and women, obviously there is a context to it. But I was startled by the fact that it would have been quite a challenge to translate such profound texts in an aesthetically and a very poetic form. So very well done on that note.
Thank you.
Also, it traverses through the 6 seasons. Were there some fascinating facts that during your research about the 6 seasons that you would like to share with us?
I found that each season has a different mood. Like each ritu has a different mood, and for example, summer, the focus is more on cool pools. How to take bath in cool pools, and enjoy the rooftops. I mean, everything is there. You must read Kalidasa for sure. It's our heritage. Each one of you, I would urge you to read Kalidas. These two poems. And look at rain. When it comes to rain, the season of rains approaches my love like a king. His royal cavalcade in full ceremonial procession. Dark clouds, his war elephants in their rutting season. Glowing flashes of lightning, his tapering victory flag, and roaring thunder, the sound of beating war drums, welcomed by the crowd of lovers with maddening cheers. This is how rainy season enters.
And then followed
And
by?
then it's again it comes to like the sky is overcast with dark clouds all around, glowing deeply like the petals of dark blue lotuses. Somewhere dark like hips of black coal, elsewhere like the dark nipples of pregnant women.
So there are lots of analogies. And
Then he I mean he then describes this beautiful details of nature, like jade fragments. The green grass rises, spreading its blades to each to catch raindrops. Red Indragopka insects perch on fresh leaf buds bursting forth from the Kandali plants. The earth smiles like an elegant lady,
yeah.
draped in nature's colorful jewels.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reciting these beautiful verses. How much time did it take you to do the entire research, and when you were satisfied enough that this book is now presentable as a translation?
So it was the time of pandemic, and I had more free time to do it, and it all happened with pretty, I think, in a succession of year and a half, one after another. I ended up translating because there was nothing else to do. And I've realized that when you have, all these things, poetry is not for a fast life, It's poetry is for, you can only release poetry when you have slowed yourself down. You have to, in poetry, each word is important, each sound is important. And you won't be able to pay adequate attention to them until you have slowed down and your mind is not rushing from one task to another. So this one, Kalidasa has to be enjoyed slowly. Each stanza is full of joy and bliss.
And there are some stanzas over which you would want to stop reading and wait.
Yeah.
Until when, you do not know. Sometimes it could be days, it could be a week.
Right.
So it's very absorbing and consuming. Also, how do you balance the life of a diplomat and a poet at the same time? How easy or difficult it is?
Being a poet it's the way of life. I mean, I was just listening to the previous speaker and I realized that I have the most sattvic life because I wake up early in the morning with Surya Namaskar, do yoga every day, and I'm asleep by 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I get 8 hours of sleep and wake up in the morning. So I'm a vegetarian, so I was realizing that I don't need to read his book because I'm doing exactly what he wants us to do. No coffee for me. I feel really bad after having coffee, but tea is good. Tea is fine. So it's, I think, poetry is a way of life. I mean, being a poet does not mean publishing books, actually.
How
I mean,
true. That's so beautifully put, really.
Being a poet means how you see the world, actually. So a poet, I would say, sees the world differently than rest of us. And that's why, when I write these lines, like I wake up with your thoughts, and someone whom I have not seen, so it's all imagination, right? And it only happens when you are like completely free. Your mind is like, no. I mean, my other book is called Celestial, and in Celestial I take you to all the 88 star constellations in the universe,
So we have a story behind it. Why don't you let the story out? I was reading somewhere and where you mentioned that you were staring at the sky during your college days and you spotted the constellation of Orion.
Right.
And then it took you to Locksley Hall, the famous
Yeah.
poem by Alfred Tennyson.
Right.
And then you thought, why don't we have something like that here?
True.
Which is indigenous to us.
So it happened that in college I used to carry a poem in my wallet, and it was few lines from a poem called Locksley Hall by Lord Alfred Tennyson. And it was actually about, an ideal world, the federation of the world and so on, in which there is complete peace, there is no war, and mankind is, engaged in commerce. And there's so when I was in Madagascar, when you have lots of time, lots of things happen actually. When you are like not being stressed to do one thing and another. So I ended up reading this whole poem, and then there I found the mention of the constellation of Orion and the star the star signs of the plates, and then I thought that why not to write a poem which is which is a rhyming poem of 100 stanzas, because Loxley Hall is 97 stanzas. And then I thought of a plot, and what should I do? So I thought of someone on earth is looking for his beloved, who is playing a game of hide and seek in star constellation, moving from one star constellation to another, and you have to find her or him, whatever. So and one night, I woke up, and in Madagascar, where I lived, the sky was like so bright, like you could see the the stars as we used to see in our childhood and in India. And one night I saw that the constellation of Scorpius was like shining bright right in, like, outside my balcony. It was almost trying to enter, and then at 2 a.m. at night, I just woke up and saw, like, for a few minutes, and I was like, those lines came, I wake up, awake each night, I savor starlight, and then 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 I thought of, I thought of a plot that how to take it forward, and then the next line, awake each night, I savor starlight before the blinding sunlight obliterates you from my sight. And then Orion used to be, all of you, I think, can see the Orion, the constellation of Orion, which is the most prominent. You can see from here also in some dark places. And then I thought of Orion's, you can recognize it by the belt, the Orion's belt, which has, and so this is how the poem moved, and I thought of bringing all the 88 constellations which are visible from Earth into this poem, and in a rhyming way. I mean, I don't write rhyming poetry, but this was the first time I wrote a rhyming poem of 100 stanzas.
Nice. That sounds beautiful.
So I was telling you about being a poet. What does it mean to be a poet? It means completely, looking the world in a different way.
So I have, with your permission, like people, as poets, like Abhijit is a poet, I'm a poet. All of you who like reading poetry and like falling for emotions are probably poets from heart. So they keep asking us कि आप में और एक आम इंसान में क्या फ़र्क है? तो उस पर छोटी सी एक बात याद आती है. When I look at the moon, I don't see it like a satellite. I see the faces of love in it. When I see a rose, I don't see stamens and pistils and florals and petals. For me, a rose could be a reminder of so many beautiful memories, or a torture, I don't know. So whenever you look at a thing and not see it as it is scientifically, you become a poet there and then. And in that sense, I think all of us are poets. We connect with inanimated objects in a different way. Chai is a love language for all of us. How? When? Kya ho gaya? It was supposed to be a beverage. So in some way, we all of us are poets, and obviously the kind of poetry that you do and that you talk about needs a lot of slowing down and immersion. Yeah.
Also, I think, the advantage of being a poet is that you don't need much to be happy. You will see a star and you are happy. You see a hippo and you are happy.
Yeah,
like
चांद देख के हम गाने बना देते हैं.
Chand pe, you see the moon rising and you are like, wow. I mean, this is the best thing. Like the most, what makes me most joyous every day is watching the sunrise and the sunset. I do not need anything more. It's such a joy. So
Absolutely, it's sheer delight. You also have the privilege of being the youngest IFS officer in the country. Why don't you tell us something about your childhood days and how and what poetry meant to you during that period?
Well, when I was in class 4th, I remember reading poems of Ramdhari Singh Dinkar.
Oh, wow.
And his Rashmi Rathi particularly is so amazing. I mean, the sound of it, if you read Rashmi Rathi, the sound stays with you. And it reverberates from time to time wherever you are. So, and and surprisingly later I found that even even diplomacy was part of it. दे दो केवल 5 ग्राम रखो अपनी धरती तमाम हम उसी में खुशी से खाएंगे परिजन पर असी न उठाएंगे दुर्योधन वो भी दे न सका आशीष समाज की ले न सका उल्टे हरि को बांधने चला जो था साध्य साधने चला तो diplomacy also begins there, in poetry. For me, like, you asked me about the balancing thing, For me, they complement, poetry takes me to diplomacy, diplomacy takes me to poetry. And in fact, I have written about the commonalities actually between poetry and diplomacy and how sort of they complement me for each other, the two complement each other. I mean, poetry is essential language. And you try to, you practice brevity in the sense you try to say more in fewer words. So does diplomacy. Poetry is about tell it but tell it slant, as Emily Dickinson says.
Yes.
And so is diplomacy. It's not a direct language. As poets and diplomats, you deal with words, and at least both the art forms, I mean, I treat diplomacy also as an art form, teach you at least to choose your words very carefully.
That's so true. Both in diplomacy and in poetry, you need to choose your words very carefully. That's so true. But for poets, we live in very strange times, Abhayji. Of late, the social media promotion and the worldly display of poetic abilities has taken over the academic and art form that poetry was meant to be. How much of social media promotion do you believe in? And do you really think that a poet needs to go out, stand, perform, get under the spotlight, get visibility to be noticed?
I think, to each to his own or her own, I think being a poet is being, you don't, I mean, it's more like a private experience, I mean, it's like a communion. When you are reading a poem alone, in solitude, it communicates to you differently than when you are reading a poem in public.
Okay.
So, I mean, and poetry has, poetry is everywhere actually. What you listen, Jai Hanuman Gyan Gun Sagar, Jai Kapisti Loko Jagar, also it's poem. Or when you wake up and read Gayatri Mantra, Ong Bhur Bhuvah Swah Tat Savitur Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. That's also a poem. When the priest gets you married through mantras, when he gives you blessings, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschittuk Bha Bhavit. That's the poem. When you listen to, Incredible India works on poetic principles. It has alliteration. Incredible India, So the jingles in the advertisement, I mean, the best ad writers, those who write advertisements, they are poets, actually. The songs you hear, appreciate so much, they are poems.
Yeah. All lyricists are poets.
So poetry is everywhere. It's all pervasive. And some people say that, oh, I don't read poetry, I don't like poetry. But actually, you are consuming poetry, so much poetry every day.
That's so true. So what is your message to the young poets?
I mean, I would say that read a lot, I mean, because writing poetry is just 1%. You have to read 99% of the work is to read poetry.
Absolutely.
And please read as much as you can, so that when you write, you are writing with full respect and homage to what has been written earlier. You are aware of what has been written earlier.
We roughly have about 10 to 15 minutes more. Yes, absolutely. So we have about 10-15 minutes more in our hand. I have a very, very quick set of questions for you, Abhayji, of which I would like you to give an answer in just about a line.
Okay.
Okay?
That's
So
the rapid fire.
sort of, yes. Like, it's like coffee with Kena. Coffee nahi hai yahan pe. So we'll do that, and then we'll open the house for question and answers very quickly.
Okay.
And that's our idea of understanding the person Abhayji is. Okay. Quickly, your favorite 3 books that come to mind instantly.
Kalidasa's Ritu Samara, Ramdhari Singh Dinkar's
Rashmi Rathi.
Rashmi Rathi, and Tagore's Gitanjali.
Lovely. Okay, now 3 poets, not the ones that you mentioned just now.
Yeah, Wisława Szymborska from Poland, T.S. Eliot from US, UK, and Pablo Neruda from Chile.
Aha. Wow. One verse that's running through your mind right now.
Which verse?
Yeah, any which is in your mind right now, like.
You were mentioning moon, and I have a moon anthem, anthem for the moon, and I have an anthem for all the planets on the solar system, but moon anthem, celestial diamond, primeval timepiece, cosmic lamppost, night's soft kiss, seducing oceans, occulting sun, silver goddess lighting up heaven, mankind's great leap, ephemeral solace, a pit stop to explore the deep space, sensuous sentinel, deep space. All right, I will leave here.
Wow, how do you remember all of that?
Yeah.
My God. Okay, if you had one superpower to choose, what would that be?
Super?
Power.
To choose.
Yeah.
I would, to be able to have the freedom and peace to write.
Oh, wow. Okay. You don't have it right now?
I do, but I would like to have more.
Okay. What is that one thing about you that probably we do not know and that you can let off right now?
Well, I'm also an artist.
Oh.
And I would love to have an exhibition someday at IGNCA.
Okay. Which character from any book has stayed with you in mind for the longest time?
Well, I think, दो बैलों की कथा प्रेमचंद,
Premchand,
so I think of Hira and Moti.
Yeah, lovely. And do you Google yourself?
Sometimes.
How often is that sometimes? Okay, toughest criticism that you received that hurt you a little.
Well, I mean, I think it's not the criticism which hurts you. I think it's the indifference to poetry,
Ah, yes, we get that.
Yeah.
And the best compliment.
Vijay Seshadri, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning poet, has called me a world poet.
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you have writing friends?
Writing friends?
Yeah, I mean friends who you go to share your writing with or talk about.
Yeah, I
writing
have an editor who edits everything I write. So,
Chetali.
so edits in the sense that I run that everything I write through this person.
Yeah, I read a name. Chetali Pandya.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, her name is Chaitali Pandya. She lives in Mumbai.
Yeah. Do you have a writing superstition?
Well, I think I'm able to finish a book faster when I start it from the end.
Wow.
Because I know, it's like how it's going to end. So
Oh, okay. Okay. A book that you wished you had written. I mean, you loved it
well,
so much.
I think that's you know 20 love poems and a song of despair by Neruda.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Second last question. What does this author do when he's not a poet or a diplomat?
I'm walking mostly in Lodi Garden or
So
or
you know where to...
any other garden. I'm a big nature lover. Or I am like in signing books in
Oh,
Kanwai
is it? Oh,
at
okay.
Barry Sons.
So we know where to get him then, if not here on this stage. And the last question. What is that one song that can be your life song?
Well, I have a live song actually. It's called Soul Song, and my first poem actually.
Mm-hmm.
I was always here as blowing wind or falling leaves, as shining sun or flowing streams, at chirping birds or blooming buds, as the blue sky or the empty space. I was never born. I didn't die.
Mic drop. So beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Abhiji. And now let's open the house for question and answers. He's all yours. You, so you poetically exhausted. So could we have your name? Sir, could we have your name,
What
please?
are you? If one word to describe you would be what? You are all over the place. Just what are you? A poet, a writer, a diplomat, blah 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 blah, and all that. So
I think I'm like a happy child of the universe, having joy and I mean, while I'm here.
That's nice as a poetry again. I said one word.
One word poet.
Okay, accepted. Now, from the two of you, is it true that we all poets are misunderstood most of the time?
Actually, we don't care, sir, even if we are.
Yes or no?
I think so, yes.
She said
Yes.
you're a diplomat being influenced by you. So
Yes.
let's not go into that.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Right.
Touche.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Please go ahead. If you could also let us know your name, ma'am.
I think we had a lovely session, so please give a thanks to our.
Hello, my name is Aisha and it was pleasure meeting you. So
Aisha also sounds like poetry.
it is.
Well, every word is a poem.
For poet everything is poetry. So as a young kid who is writing and like doing poems, so one piece of advice or one piece of wisdom you would like to share that inspire as a youth.
You want to?
Both of you can give one.
One piece of wisdom for writing.
Yeah, as a youth writer, like somebody who's growing, like I am myself a poet, my sister is also a poet, so so something like which could inspire us, and one piece of wisdom we can like take away, sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that one word would be like read, because writing comes from reading. So most of us, don't read enough. So I would say everybody, please read. That's one word which I would like to leave with you. Read. I remember James Baldwin, who says that, I thought the problems of the world, were, I mean, everybody had huge problems until I read Dostoevsky and Dickens and realized that, I mean, my problems are, very small, actually. People have already gone through so much. So, so it's the reading which makes us wise. And in today's world, when social media has reduced our attention spans, and we are only, we are going into the reel mode where reels are being watched. Reading, the space for reading is shrinking, but reading, acts at different levels, and it enhances our cognitive, not only cognitive abilities, but also, deepens our understanding of this world. So I would say read.
And if I were to add to what Sir says, obviously reading is the foundation, but please don't uh, chain yourself with what others are saying. Get too hoots about what others are saying. Just write. किसी भी पोएम के क्रिएशन के लिए उसका लिखना ज़रूरी है. तो कभी ये मत सोचना कि मैं जो लिख रही हूँ इसमें वज़न कम है, लोग क्या कहेंगे, ये बाहर कोई पढ़ेगा तो क्या सोचेगा. नो, जस्ट लिबरेट इट फ्रॉम ऑल ऑनेस्टी एंड ऑल योर हार्ट एंड डू सीक फीडबैक. इट हेल्प्स.
And become fearless, which my name means fearless, but become fearless, because it's all about, I think one of the key things we come across is always come across in our life is fear of everything. What will others say? What will critics say? What will teachers say? What will parents say? Neruda, for example, his parents were very discouraging. They did not want him to write any poetry. So he changed his name to Neruda and wrote poems.
We look forward to reading your work.
Thank you so much. It really means a
There's a
lot.
question from the back.
Hi, I'm Nishant. So I have two questions for you, sir. One is, what do you do, what will you suggest for a writer's block, like how to get away from that? This is one. Second, a big chunk of the session went to Meghdutam. So Meghdutam was written at the ghats of Shipra river Shipra. Kabir wrote all his, most of Kabir's work is at the ghat of Banaras, or Ramcharitmanas was at the ghats of Banaras, or Arundhati Roy wrote A God of Small Things at the ghats of Narmada. So how much the impact of this, when you are close to the nature or these specific places where you sit and then do, some great work comes. So two set of questions I have.
Both brilliant questions. He actually wrote Monsoon when he was posted in Madagascar.
So that itself is an answer.
Yeah, so yeah, Monsoon and also Celestial. I could not have written Monsoon or Celestial or the book of Bihari literature, which is here, edited book, and a couple of other books if I was not in Madagascar, because places do. I could see the sky clearly there, and I could see the star constellations every night, and that's how inspiration came to write a poem about star constellations. So really, places do matter, and if you can find a quiet place anywhere, you should be able to write. But quiet actually comes from within. I used to write poems in Moscow metro while traveling. So I could find my quiet, amidst a crowd, and it was like perfectly. Nobody was really disturbing you. You could write your poem. So quiet also comes from within, but if you can find a place which inspires you, and the writer's block, writer's block, everybody faces writer's block, Right now I am facing writer's block. So the best way to deal with it is to keep yourself inspired, keep yourself motivated, and find little discipline. I was listening to John Fosse recently, who had just won the Nobel Prize last year, and one advice he gave that and which I found very useful, is that when you wake up in the morning, you are coming from your dream state to the real world, and that's probably the best time to gather all your thoughts before the busy world takes over you. And I have started following since last few days, and I am able to produce something, slowly. So, and keep yourself de-stressed in the sense that, writing doesn't come if you are stressed.
Nice, thank you. Do we have more questions? One more? Two more? Shobita, did you say? Suchita? Did you get that? Shuddhata? What is a lovely name? Yeah.
It's Shraddhita. Yeah. It was a really pleasure hearing you guys over here. I just wanted to ask about something I was very curious about when you said that you write backwards. What is the gist about that? Like, what do you think when you write backwards? Like, even if a writer is there, so it's a back thought, no? Ki we'll start from the starting, and it's very common. Like, what's your thought of process on writing from the backward?
Well, I mean, that means that, I mean, I was talking about, I mean, particularly of, I think, Monsoon, So when you know the end thing, that what's going to happen in the end, it helps you to piece together, like, different steps, different stanzas towards the end. Also, I mean, uh, see, in short poem, it does not happen that way. I mean, poetry, you don't plan poetry in the sense that what's going to come, the next line. So, and that's the beauty and wonder of writing poetry, that you don't exactly know the next line. So, but when I was talking about the plots, like when you have, for example, when I was writing Celestial, I had this in mind that where I'll make them meet, make the two, one on Earth and in another who is traveling across the universe. So in which constellation they're going to meet, and what should be this constellation, So once you know that, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It becomes easier to fit in things, because you know the end game. So that's what.
Thank you so much.
And also, I think it's easier to do this with poetry than it would be with a sequential chapterization of a novel. That is slightly difficult to fathom. Poetry, you can play with verses.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the play which gives you the most joy, not the publishing.
So I read a poet somewhere, and he said that when I write, I have a beginning, middle, and an end, not necessarily in that order.
I just love the way you speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Utta. One more question we had from the lady there. Yes. What's your name, ma'am? दीपमाला जी बताइए.
सर, जैसे आपने कहा कि कालिदास आपके फेवरेट पोएट हैं, तो जैसे आपको में ऐसा क्या लगा, क्योंकि मैं भी साहित्य की स्टूडेंट रही हूँ, तो आपने उनको ही क्यों चुना? हालांकि उनको शेक्सपियर कहते हैं अपने यहाँ का, और उनका ट्रोलिंग भी हुई है कुमार संभव के लिए उनकी, तो आपको ऐसा उनमें ऐसा क्या लगा?
मुझे जो मतलब अद्भुत चीज़ लगी, मैंने बताया भी कि कालिदास का जो दो थीम है, जो 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 एक तो हो गया प्रकृति, और दूसरा जो है सेंसुअलिटी, है ना, तो उसका जो कॉम्बिनेशन उन्होंने किया है वो अनपैरेलल्ड है. मतलब किस तरह से उसको साथ लाना है, वो मैंने और किसी पोएट में नहीं देखा. और उनका जो अभी भी आप पढ़ेंगे कालिदास को, तो वो लगता है कि वो हमारे कॉन्टेम्प्रेरी हैं. तो कोई भी जो कालजयी रचना होती है, उसमें ये खूबी होती है कि वो चाहे आप 5वीं शताब्दी में पढ़ें, चाहे 21वीं शताब्दी में पढ़ें, लगता है कि वो तो हमसे एकदम डायरेक्ट बातें कर रहे हैं. आपने देखा, आपने सुना, कई लाइनें पढ़ी, और उसको अगर आप संस्कृत में पढ़ सकें तो और भी बहुत बहुत सुंदर है. अंग्रेजी में तो उसका जो मैंने अनुवाद किया है वो कुछ भी नहीं है उसके सामने. तो आप अगर उसको संस्कृत में पढ़ें तो बहुत ही आनंद आएगा, या उसको कोशिश करें कि, क्योंकि संस्कृत पढ़ना बहुत मुश्किल नहीं है. जो हमारी सारी भाषाएं हैं, हिंदी हो या और भी बंगाली हो या उड़िया हो, सब संस्कृत से ही आती हैं. तो उसको पढ़ें. और कालिदास जो है बहुत ही महान कवि इसलिए हैं क्योंकि उनको पढ़ने में बहुत आनंद आता है.
More questions? Please, ma'am. Could we have the Ji?
Is it safe to say that the poet in you is it comes to your help, in resolving or solving the conflict which you face as a diplomat? Does that help?
Ekdam. I mean, I would say that being a poet makes me a better diplomat. And I'll give you examples for that. I have worked in Nepal for 3.5 years, for 3 years in Brazil, and 3.5 years in Madagascar. Before that, in Russia as well for 5 years, both in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. And till today, I have friends there. So friends in the sense that, they remember me. They want me to come back there and share, their lives, their poems, or anything, So I'm not sure all diplomats have this privilege, because as a diplomat, your relations are mostly transactional. I need this, you need that, it's over. But as a poet, you have you have deeper connection, I would say. You have a deeper connect with another person, and the barrier goes down. So, for example, I used to host a program called Poemandu in Kathmandu, Poemandu and Conversations, and there are several, people from different walks of life who would generally not come to, if you host a hard diplomatic reception, would not come, but they would come to listen, to read their, share their thoughts. They would come to read a poem, and they would easily mingle with you. Same thing, I used to host a program called Chá com Letras in Brazil, tea with letters, and in Lalitana in Madagascar, and that made me, friends with who is who of, in these countries, and they all, it was. So, what is diplomacy? If you are obviously trying to become a diplomat, you may not, it will be visible that you are trying that, but anything is successful when it is effortless. And poetry, that's why poetry is the best ambassador. It makes you friends effortlessly. And other way around also, I would not have written any of these books. You see, the Alphabets of Latin America, or the Eight-Eyed Lord of Kathmandu, or Monsoon, if I was not a diplomat. So being a diplomat makes me a better poet.
Oh, how lovely. Very beautifully put. Thank you so much. सत्र की समाप्ति करते हैं यहाँ पर इन पंक्तियों से कि गोपाल दास नीरज जी की लाइन्स हैं। आत्मा के सौंदर्य का शब्द रूप है काव्य, आत्मा के सौंदर्य का शब्द रूप है काव्य, मानव होना भाग्य है, कवि होना सौभाग्य. So here's to all the poets here. Thank you, Delhi Literature Festival, for giving poetry a session. Thank you so much. Means a lot.
Just imagine, I was just seeing something in TV, and एक place है इंडिया में, I don't remember the name. वहाँ पे सब लोग whistle करके बात करते हैं. Nobody talks to each other. Northeast, right?
नहीं, it's in Meghalaya. It's called Kong Thong.
They don't talk to each other. They just whistle and they understand
उनके
that
नाम
language.
whistles होते हैं, हाँ. नाम भी whistles होते हैं. मतलब वो ऐसे जैसे किसी को बुलाना होता है तो वो.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. So just imagine हम सब poets होते हैं यहाँ पे और हम poetry की language बोल रहे होते, कितना beautiful होता. मुझे आप लोग hand raise करिए, किसी ने रश्मि रथी किसने पढ़ी है सब लोगों में से? Honestly, बहुत कम लोग हैं. रश्मि रथी पढ़िए आप लोग, because yeah, of course. बट रामधारी सिंह दिनकर एक ऐसे कवि हैं जिनको हम शायद आई थिंक मैंने 20-20 टाइम्स पढ़ी है रश्मि रथी, एंड जब भी मैं पढ़ती हूँ आई थिंक आई गेट गूज बम्स. उसकी बहुत मैं कुछ लाइन्स बोलूँ बिकॉज वी स्टिल हैव बिकॉज यू वर रीडिंग, आई थॉट कि आप पूरा पढ़ोगे बट यू डिडंट, तो मुझे बहुत ब्यूटीफुल लाइन्स लगती है उसमें. रश्मि रथी का कॉन्टेक्स्ट ये है कि जब कौरव पांडव की लड़ाई होती है तो कौरव पांडव कहते हैं कि आप हमें कुछ मत दिलाओ, आप सिर्फ 5 गांव दिला दो हमको, हम उसी में खुश रहेंगे. तो कृष्ण उनके साथी बन के कौरवों के पास जाते हैं. तो ये वहीं का संवाद है. कृष्ण की चेतावनी है कौरवों को. वो कहते हैं कि दो न्याय अगर तो आधा दो. वो कोशिश करते हैं कि शायद मिल जाए. दो न्याय अगर तो आधा दो, बट इसमें भी अभी यदि बाधा हो तो दे दो केवल 5 ग्राम. रख लो अपनी धरती तमाम, हम वहीं खुशी से खाएंगे, परिजन पर असीना उठाएंगे. दुर्योधन यह भी दे ना सका, आशीष समाज की ले ना सका, उल्टे हरि को बांधने चला, जो था असाध्य साधने चला. जब नाश मनुष्य पर छाता है, पहले विवेक मर जाता है. तो मुझे ये बहुत, इट्स अ वेरी लॉन्ग थिंग, आप पढ़िएगा बिकॉज इट्स वेरी ब्यूटीफुल. टाइम है या ये बहुत बड़ा है यार. It's very beautiful. It's very long actually. It's very beautiful. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for this amazing, lovely session. Now I would request Mr. Ajay ji to come here. Yeah.
Please do
Thank you.
pick up the books for reading.
So we have a signing for the authors, and there's a souvenir shop from where you can pick up the books and get it signed by the author at the back of the hall. Thank you so much.